1 2. See, put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Please like, please subscribe, please share. Like the video, subscribe to the video, please share. Like the video, subscribe to the video, please share. Right. You know, we're getting busy today. Situations iko nyingi, zingine ziko poa na zingine hazishiki. Yep. Mbona drama tu kwa wingi, kila sabala na sijaishi miaka nyingi. Nikienda mjini, look like a suspect. We're getting started shortly. We'll get started very soon. In about 2 minutes, just finishing up some stuff. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Shout out Nazizi. Hata nimetoka bila sima, nikao ufike stage alafu speaker zikazima, na uwanja umejaa na mafan zima, ni kama drought ikivisit wakulima. Ni kama tali wako akinoki your best friend, unachapa unataka hanye kila weekend, umeiba gari ya buda tena ni best, umeigonga na huna ends. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. I know there's a couple people in here. You know, we're getting ready. We're getting popping in about 2 minutes. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Check on the professor. Make sure he's all good. Perfect. Thank you. All right, I think that was the perfect upload for that. So let's go. All right. So we're about to get busy right now. Kenya's been popping, right? All of Africa's really popping. Excuse me, I got something in my eye. All of Africa's really popping right now. Politically, it's significantly tougher to understand than it is to watch, right? We can watch something and think we know what's going on, but as usual with many different political circumstances, there's a lot of context behind it. So let's go ahead and call the professor. And as a matter of fact, hold up. Before we call the professor, we gotta load up this video, dog. We gotta load up this video. I'm gonna just play it for you because this man is wilding, right? This man is wilding. And by this man, I mean Ruto. So let's just listen to the audio of this, man. My uncle sent me this, man. Shout out Unc for sending me this.
No, these are fine.
This boy, 12-year-old, took 8 bullets into the body of a 12-year-old boy. What would you tell the mother of that boy?
Wait.
That boy is alive, right?
So for those who didn't hear, this man Ruto said that boy, he is alive, right? Right. I don't know if he didn't know. I don't know if he made that to be slight. I don't know what he meant it as, but had to play tension on this episode because of how serious the tension is rising. So let's go ahead on and call the professor and hop right into the discussion, man. And let me know if the music is something y'all like at the beginning, to let people stream in, or if you want to just hop straight into the discussion. I'm perfectly fine with that. You know what I'm saying? But let's call the prof and get busy. Put a 1 in the chat if you can still hear me. Go ahead on and call the professor. Hello? Sikuski? Let's try this. Hello? Hey, Dad, I can't hear you at all. We're going to try and reconnect and then get right to it. Cool. Thank you for letting me know that you can hear. Please continue to let me know if you can hear. I'm trying to make sure we can call the professor and get jumped into this conversation as soon as possible. Trying to figure out what's going on with this. Let me see if this works now. There we go. Hello?
Hello?
All right. Unanisikia?
Yes.
All right, we're live, and put a one in the chat if you can hear the professor as well. We're gonna go ahead on and dive into it, but everything seems as though it's working on my end. I can hear myself. People are telling me they can hear it. They heard everything on the solid on the beginning. But welcome back, Professor Pops. Thanks so much for joining
Okay.
us today. And
Thank you.
we saw a very, very, very funny video that was from a very serious circumstance about a young boy that was shot. He was 12 years old, I believe, and he was shot multiple times. And Ruto said, "Well, that boy, he's alive, right?" And he said that with the coldest face I've seen in a long time. The protests have been weighing in a lot on the Kenyan people. Um, and you made some predictions about where the country was going to go. Um, Talk to the viewers a little bit about that.
Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are listening, and thank you for participating. And let's continue the communication through the chat room. But essentially, what is it that, Victor, you want me to comment about? Because these are things that we predicted the last time we were here, that, number one, having a protest without a leader was, to me, and still is problematic. Secondly, we can't have a leaderless protest that survives more than a day or more than a particular incident. And then thirdly, we talked about every protest movement, as long as it has a political element, being controlled by shadowy figures. And of course, the last few days, we've started seeing some of these shadowy figures coming up in the open. So I don't know, Victor, what you want us to start with of those many things that I've highlighted.
I think what you did essentially of recapping your predictions was exactly what I asked, which was to touch on your predictions. So you can start wherever it is that you believe we should touch on for this afternoon.
Okay.
I'm very interested in your predictions as far as uh having a leaderless movement and how it is how it is causing issues with the Gen Z in being heard, right? Because we see that they're effective in unifying themselves, which is and they're effective enough to pay attention and keep their attention on it.
Yeah,
So
but I still keep on asking myself, Gen Zs are not like the lantern flies that now we are experiencing in America that came out of hibernation for 17 years.
yeah,
Because that is the nature.
yeah.
Gen Zs were with us, and they were of age in 2022 when we voted. Where were they? Why did they assume that event wasn't important to them?
And if it was important to them, why didn't they vote somebody who was capable of leading? Because I do not understand whether people really understand the implications of living in a democracy. A democracy is an agreement by the majority of the people to do certain things for a certain period. And one of the major things is we have elections, and once we have completed the elections, we give the people we have elected time to achieve what they promise us. And this time is always given. For Kenya, it is 5 years. For America, it is 4 years. You elect somebody, they get their government in place, they start putting their policies to effect, the ones they promised us. Why are Gen Zs behaving like they were not in Kenya? They have just come probably from outer space. Probably they were also stuck in outer space. Probably they had gone there with a Boeing machine that was stuck someplace in the outer space.
Yeah.
Where were they in 2022 when we were electing a president, when we were electing a government?
Mm-hmm.
Now they are waking up after only 15 months and saying, we don't like this person. That is not how a democracy operates. A democracy, you elect, and then you know if we screw up, then we have 5 years to get stuck with it. Now, going to protest, and the majority of them, I can guarantee you, didn't go to vote, is problematic to me. Because this is true of that generation, that they are told by their mothers to wake up to go to school. They don't wake up early. They have to be woken up at 11, at 12, because they want to create their own rules. But they are too young to create their own rules. The rules of the democracy, of a democracy in Kenya, is that we've elected a president, crappy as he might be. I'm not justifying him. I'm just saying we've just elected him. Let's allow him to rule. Whether he rules badly, then that is a reason to remove him in 2027.
You know,
But now going to the streets and giving ourselves the responsibility to ban everything else because we do not like, and I quote here, the president who was elected. Where were you? You should have elected the president you wanted.
I mean, look, you can't, and this goes back to the point that I made last time, right? How can you say that when Kenyan elections, we always know, have a very corrupt element, right?
So the corruption is only one side?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the difficulty of this is twofold. Number one, you're making it seem as though Gen Z was the representative population that elected Ruto, right? That's your argument. No, but Gen Z was a majority of the people protesting. So you can't.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying you can't be like, oh, this is about your voter responsibility if most of them didn't vote for that.
If they had just come, have the numbers they are in the streets in the last elections, and they have just voted, even if they had voted for the other candidate, their own candidate would have won. That is my point, that they didn't participate in that legitimate exercise. And now, because they didn't
no, but
participate
that is a oxymoron, because you're saying they didn't participate in a legitimate exercise that is inherently corrupt. So that's literally why.
Remember,
they
corrupt
decided,
is your word, not mine. Remember, corrupt is your word, not mine.
I mean, okay.
It's like saying that is like, do you know the sport called rugby?
Yeah, shout out to Dennis Macau. Dennis says, wewe ka USA, sisi tuko Kenya.
Sawa. No, but think of this. What you are saying, Victor, is somebody coming to complain and saying, oh, rugby is so rough, I want them to play it like football. No. Politics in Kenya is that game, and it has always been that game.
So let them play it. That's what they're playing. You want them to, you're saying, what you're saying, everything that you're saying is also contradicting your point. because you're saying politics in Kenya is rough. They are rough too. They're getting rough how they know how, right? To the point
Yes,
of where they're literally attacking MPs on their drive to the crib. That's what I'm saying.
Attacking MPs. That one I'm 100% with them.
Okay, so you're saying they
That
should
one
only do this
because
if they're participating in this quote unquote legitimate process of voting?
no. You see where we are now. I remember last time I told you, let's also identify the second element of this protest, the objectives. If the objective is to bring Kenya back to a place where it can be governable, there's absolutely no way we can do that without banning these MPs, literally banning them the way they are being banned. There is absolutely no other way, short of a civil war. So, torn between a civil war and banning them pigs, I'll provide the paraffin, I'll provide the gas. So don't think I'm not agreeing with them.
Okay.
But I want us to have clearly defined objectives so that when we achieve them, like we always say with the military, the moment you get them out of the barracks, you must know at what point to take them back to the barracks.
Okay.
Because you can't just leave them roaming around. They are very dangerous. So if now we said, let's now get these MPs, because did you see today's headlines? In addition to the millions they are earning legitimately and illegitimately, they have just been added the salary increment. That there, to me, is a problem with Kenya. The MPs have just decided they would hold everybody else at ransom. If the CRC, the one that determines their salaries, if they disagree with them, they vote of no confidence with it, they remove it. If the president doesn't give them what they want, they threaten to have a vote of no confidence with them. If any commission decides to go against the MPs have the trump card. It is them we should start targeting. I have no problem with the protesters. My problem is assuming that they have no objectives or assuming that their objectives are clearly acceptable to everybody. And the assumption that their objectives, even when you don't know what they are, will get us a better Kenya. No. Here, what I'm doing, I'm giving them an objective that can give them exactly what we want. If today we just cut this neck called members of parliament and completely eliminated that institution, Kenya will not be worse off. But the amount of money we save and the many corrupt people we are going to eliminate from it might get Kenya on a better footing. That is my argument.
Okay. See, that's very nuanced. And how you started, how you prefaced the argument, definitely wasn't as nuanced. So next time I'll try and hear you out a little bit better. Rather than
so you see now, the point is right now we still have a president who can do the presidential things.
Mm-hmm.
Even calling the police to beat a little bit of the protesters, that is still something that needs to be done.
Why?
But
why?
We are still.
Why?
What do you mean why?
Why?
Did you look at what is happening in Mombasa?
Which part?
When they start banning private property, when they start looting vehicles parked, when they start doing all that, that is criminality. Doesn't matter who is doing it.
Shout out to Musili. He says Gen Z are not planning to overthrow Ruto's government.
Yeah, because they don't know, even they can't spell the word overthrow, but exactly what they are doing, that is what it is. When they say Ruto must go, that going is an overthrow of the government. It is not by legitimate means. So teach that Musili how to spell overthrow. I think you might need a bit of it.
Yeah. I don't think there's a connection between Gen Z's opinion and your opinion, because it seems as though you're straddling the fence of understanding them, but also wanting a certain process that is also on the way out. But these past few episodes, you've been talking about the failures of democracy, right? And these failures of democracy are specifically quite loud in Africa, right? And how terribly we've been able to integrate or the lack thereof democracy into African states as it was given to us by Europeans, right? So
allow me to comment something about just what you've said.
okay.
What we are seeing is actually not really a problem of democracy per se. It is a problem of those marketing that thing called democracy in Africa, and even other people's understanding of it. Number one, democracy everywhere was supposed to be an elite exercise. It was never meant to be for the hoi polloi. It was never meant for the poor. This was an undertaking of the elite right from its Greek origin. It is something that was for males, white, propertied. The problem with democracy now is being exported or even being localized or even being practiced in Africa. It has been made for this thing that even somebody who can't get a job, somebody who can't even earn a living, is now given a stake in it. And that person cannot conceive that democracy without seeing it as a rich man versus a poor man, cannot see it in any other way other than one ethnic group over the other ethnic group. They cannot see it without seeing it as a solution to their condition in life. So if you are poor, your identification with democracy will be, oh, if we had a democracy, I would not be poor. If you are jobless, if we had a good democracy, I would not be without a job. This is the thing that I'm saying. There is no connection between the two. We could still be in a perfect democracy, and if you are poor and lazy, you still remain poor and lazy. If you still can't get a date, democracy will not give you that. So we need to separate these things.
So you're saying that Gen Z essentially is deluded into thinking that the government will solve all of their problems.
My point precisely.
I see.
But the government has some things it can do well. It can provide, like now, it can provide an enabling environment for investment. That is something a government can do very well. A government can do so many things. I'm not saying that their expectation is completely misplaced, but the assumption that just because they are voted, or even if they are voted that and their person has won, the relationship and a causal one between their problem and that person governing, even as a country.
You're saying you can still have the best democracy and be poor.
And still be the poorest.
Okay. Explain that some more.
Have you ever wondered why none of the Fortune 500 corporations have an election as the criteria for determining their CEO? Have you ever wondered why there is that disconnect? The most prosperous corporations do not elect their CEOs. Why?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Elections are the worst. Elections are the worst mechanisms of deciding anything that is good. They can only give you what is popular. It can never give you anything that is effective, anything that is efficient. And that's why even in the largest and the so-called the best democracy in America, in the world, America, look at the people who are contesting. A convicted felon, and I don't want to say senile, but the last time he was debating, we all know he couldn't even remember his name. That is what democracy gives you.
Okay. Shout out to Musili again, man. He says, I agree with Daktari. Democracy is a failed project in Africa. The problem is double fold. The masses cannot comprehend it. The elites can also not help it. Wow, that is there
That's
we go.
exactly, that's my man.
Yeah, listen. 2 minutes ago, you told this man that he needs to learn how to spell overthrow. Now, all of a sudden, he's your man.
Yeah, but you see, when he has known how to overthrow, he's seeing what I was talking about.
I see. Okay.
So now, allow me now, you had asked me a question earlier that I have not commented about. You remember I told you that this thing of a leaderless movement doesn't exist. And if it did, the movement wouldn't last overnight.
Yes.
So in the last 1 week, a few of these shadowy figures have started emerging.
Right.
And most interesting is that many of them are actually in the government.
Okay.
Do you know who Ricky G is?
Isn't he he's an MP?
The deputy president.
Oh. Okay. I didn't know that was his nickname.
Yeah, Ricky G. A few days ago had this press conference. In fact, immediately after the president had his first conference.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire thing, he was all castigating the director of NIS and talking about how the director of NIS has sabotaged President Ruto's government, how he didn't provide the president and the government with information, intelligence about how people were opposed to this what do you call it, the budget thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he says how the finance bill, and he says how the guy is incompetent. And it's a guy I know very well, he's a very competent man.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, Ricky G was not talking about anything about intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky G, being a Kikuyu, who are most affected by the influx of Somali businessmen in Kenya, and especially their total control of Eastleigh, was now fighting an economic fight using the protests. He was trying to see how can we redirect our people now within the protests, within the Gen Zs, to fighting to make sure that the businessmen in Eastleigh of Somali origin are targeted.
Wow.
This is where all that was going to. It was simply, these guys have taken over our businesses. We need to target that. And you see, that is him seeing a post-Ruto and thinking, well, if the government of Ruto was to fall, me being the second in command, I will take over. And he doesn't understand they were elected as a couple. So when one goes, the other one goes too. So he doesn't see it that way.
I mean,
but even if he was to see
is that how it was with Ruto? Ruto was in a couple.
What was it?
Wasn't he VP before?
Yeah, but you see,
so
now
why would it be far-fetched to think that you said it? I didn't know people called him Ricky G.
If the Uhuru government would have collapsed, Ruto would have gone as a deputy president.
Okay, true.
The Uhuru government just came to an end, and of course, the person who had been groomed for 10 years as vice president, it was only logical for him to present himself as the most qualified to run the government.
Shout out to Henry in the chat. He says the problem with you, Professor, is talking from a textbook perspective. We are not in a political class. That's why you won't understand this Gen Z revolution.
Tell him in 1992, I was the one leading the Gen Z of that time.
I understand.
I've been in the trenches. And I was under was regime of Moi. Forget about him who is fighting somebody who doesn't know even how to use the state machines.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So if he thinks he knows how to throw stones, tell him I have a PhD in throwing stones
Mm-hmm.
and survived the Moi regime.
Yeah, hey, listen. Anybody clapping at the professor, please continue to clap at him in the comments. Like, subscribe, share. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Get us to monetization point, and then we're gonna drop our cash app so everybody can start to help donate, build the brand with us. Musili is saying Daktari taught me a unit titled Mass Movements, Pressure Groups, and Political Parties. In reference to what he taught me, Gen Z is a social movement that successfully achieved its mission. Thank you, man, because you don't know how many times I tell my dad that he's contradicting himself. And, this proves that I'm not delusional. He most definitely contradicts himself with his own points. But, it's better if somebody else says it because, some people can only hear the truth from others, right? So, shout out Musili, shout out Henry, everybody who's active in the chat, Dennis, Selena.
Victor, what did I contradict myself with?
You contradicted yourself in the fact that you told Gen Z that they should be participating in the democratic process of voting while also stating that democracy has failed and needs to be torn down.
No. I told them even what they are doing now, if they had done it during elections time, we would have had a better solution that we don't have to do this, because elections in Africa are exactly what they are doing. They are a protest period. So it is these continuous protests that the poor and the unemployed and the youth have now engaged in, making now politics an everyday thing. That is, to me, part of the problem.
How is making politics an everyday thing a problem?
No, but now they have started Occupy every place. Now they have Occupy everywhere. And the moment we start that, we never stop. Because even the ones who will win and they become leaders will still have Occupy the same places because we want to remove them. And we have all these examples. How do you think Somali has remained ungovernable for over 30 years? How do you think Libya ended where it is? How do you think South Sudan is where it is? This is how these things start. So somebody telling me that I'm only a textbook and I've not read a textbook in the last 20 years, they've never met me. My textbook is just the street. But I know a little bit more streets than they do. I know the streets of Mogadishu.
Okay. It's quite interesting because Gen Z, some younger millennials, and other groups, I feel as though you OGs look down on us for going through the same growth processes, right? I feel like, we're still young and you're expecting us to have this, progression when even in you guys' age, there's still serious issues. Actually, shout out Henry again. He says, how does corruption, nepotism, arrogance a Gen Z problem? And then Musili says, the wisdom now lies in Gen Z transforming itself from a mass movement to pressure groups and eventually a political party, which is exactly what the point is that it's going can you give them time to grow and mature, right? The same way you guys grew and mature. But you're forgetting
Allow me to answer that.
Hang on. You're forgetting to give the grace of the inheriting of problems that we never made, right?
Oh, because you are blaming us, assuming that even what you are blaming us wasn't problems we had inherited from the previous ones. I like the way everything is blamed on the older ones who were there, but nobody credits them for what they already created. We found a single party regime that was so powerful that to break it was literally like killing an elephant with bare hands. And we managed to do that and give them a multi-party system that actually they can go to the streets for at least a day without being beaten by the police. That they should credit us for it. Let them ask somebody called Enjoyer what it meant to protest under Moi. The clips are there, let them see. And he was a clergyman, and if they could do that to a clergyman, then they would know what it used to be. But then also the other problem is to imagine that Gen Z is imagining that they have the solutions. Everybody can destroy. Anybody can go to the street. We can destroy a house. We can destroy a museum that has existed for 1,000 years. We can destroy it within 2 seconds, but we can never recreate it. So sometimes before we go to a place, it is just very, very important as well to ask ourselves, if we go there, what are the chances that we might destroy? And whatever else we might want to construct, we can never get it back. And just ask themselves, isn't tomorrow just waiting until tomorrow when probably we've figured out, or probably just scaling our expectations, our objectives? We've already achieved what we want to achieve. Isn't it time we went and saw whether going more to the streets, we are likely to be counterproductive? It is always important to have that reflection, because like I told you the other time, only a fool always determines and defines progress in terms of doing something more. Sometimes that progress can be better served by a few steps backwards. And this is when you find you are digging a hole and you intend to get out of it. Sometimes just not digging further might be the most intelligent thing to do. The same thing when you find yourself in a cliff. And here, I don't think what the Gen Zs are high on, because some of them are imagining once they get to the edge of that cliff, they will still fly. There are some of them who are still imagining that, because the ones who are saying, let's drop this, the ones who are saying, let's remove the president, and they do not know that in Kenya, as it stands, a presidential elections must be conducted by an IEBC that is not even constituted. So even if we were to remove Ruto, what process will we have to put another president? And we know without a president what will happen. Who will be the commander-in-chief? They can't go to the street and just appoint somebody to be commander-in-chief. So whatever they are doing, if they remove the president, chances are that we are likely to have a military leader the following day.
So
as long as they know this and continue doing what they are doing, then let's engage.
We got a question, right? So shout out to Musili again. Did Daktari underscore the underlying reasons why Gen Z are on the streets? Has he given his thoughts on the way forward? Still waiting for that bit, right? And what would, let's say you got to, put on an imaginative hat for the day and be General Kivuva, and you were to lead the Gen Zs, right? What would be the first thing that you either ask them or help them to achieve on the way forward?
The first thing I would tell them to leave State House alone.
Why?
Because that is treason, and the military will either be sent or they will overthrow the government. So unless they have figured out that a military government is way better than Ruto's government, unless they have answered that question, because going to State House, that is the seat of power. You will be beaten so hard unless somebody else within the military takes advantage of that, unless one of it was one of those shadowy figures and we're looking for this opportunity to take over. They should be extremely careful before going there. It is treason, and the penalty for treason everywhere is death. they are going on a trap, because you do not expect the people who are there, who they are saying are corrupt. They have invested so heavily in this. They will protect their seat of looting, and they will not go down just with their hands up. They will get all the weapons that they have secured through their illicit game, and it will be a game that Gen Zs will not believe it.
And
Because remember, they
here's
are
the
not
thing.
armed.
Here's the thing, man. This is actually a place where I gotta come at y'all in the comments for a second. Um, I get a lot of people are looking at it from the perspective as if he doesn't understand. Um, and that may be true, right? That may be true. That's immeasurable, though. That's immeasurable. You're not able to measure how much he understands. But what is measurable is what must be done, what can be done, right? And to some extent, what should be done. But what he's talking about is what is going to occur, right? And a lot of people are having issues with your opinions because they're coming from the perspective that they don't understand, but they're forgetting that this is not just a game of emotion, it's a game of strategy. And strategy is ruthless whenever you don't have a power position, right?
Exactly,
And
exactly.
protest is essentially, right? Protest is essentially somewhat of organized chaos, but still isn't even as organized if there's nobody leading it, right? And so this is something that I extensively understand because it happens a lot here in the United States as well, right? Um, and
Victor, ask your audience just to look at the massacres that have been committed by by various Kenyan governments, and see, we've had cases where we have fed humans to crocodiles in Tana River, and everybody keeps quiet.
right,
None of them had done something like that. As the ones who tried to overthrow the government in 1982,
I'm not saying
how
you're
many families
incorrect.
are still
I'm
looking
not
for their own?
I'm not saying you're incorrect. What I'm saying is that Gen Z's fire and fearlessness is precisely what is needed for a revolution to actually work. But your ability to understand strategy, right? And because you're not going to go out there, right? So at the end of the
They are
day,
not going to go there.
exactly. So on as a person who understands you as my dad and how you think, but also a person who's a lot younger than you, they're saying, yeah, your strategy is a strategy, but rather than just critiquing Gen Z about how stupid they are or how unstrategy they are, that's not a word, I just made it up, right? About how ill their planning is. How can the older generation that is also tired of these things, right, help guide this? And that's honestly the purpose of this show is, yeah, we get it. You could have done it better, but you're not outside that. So that's why I'm saying is like, okay, in your opinion, you could have did it better. You were outside back then. Oh, Moy was way worse. That's just the same way as the OGs here. They're like, oh man, y'all get the protest. We was getting shot at by rubber bullets, and like they was getting bit on by dogs. And that's the truth, right? But at the end of the day, right, the real failure here is the fact that you're expecting Gen Zs and millennials to have a perspective that was never shown to them, right? That was never shown to them. So yes, every single generation blames the older generation simply for the fact that children don't raise parents. So it's like you can say that, but you should also have a responsibility to ask your elders about their misgivings whenever it comes to the political climate. And I don't think your
You're
generation
right.
does that. Your generation didn't really do that much, right? You did it from a perspective of like politically outside, but not with your own parents, not with your own, like your own elders on a certain level. Those conversations just never happen like that.
You see, it is very interesting to see a protest movement that has taken place in Nairobi for over a week, and somebody called James Orengo was not anywhere. That tells you how much it has changed. There were those must see in every protest movement in Kenya the last almost 40 years. And now to see this is one guy who, under different circumstances, would be the one leading it, but now he is a target of those who are protesting, tells you how complex this thing is. But you asked me a question, how can we direct the Gen Zs? Let's, number one, get them out of Nairobi. Let's get them to Mashinani. Let's get them to these places where we elect MPs at. Let's demand accountability from the local level. We cannot be saying two things that are contradictory. We cannot be saying that devolution is a better governance system. And when it comes to correcting it, we don't start it there. Let's do it from the roots. Let's ensure accountability at the local level is done well. That is a place we can do without even applying force. These are people we know, they are people who know us. We need to go to them and tell them, no, this cannot be business as usual. We want accountability of our money. We want to be told, CDF, we got this amount of money. We want to be told how much that CDF has done. We want you to give us a list. We know you are given 100 million last year. We want to see a list of the bursaries that you gave and who you gave, because everybody at that level knows everybody. And you see it. And you see where you don't need even an accountant to tell you that some of them are made up, because you just need to say, the people who benefited from this, just tell us which universities they are in, tell us which high schools they are in, and because they are in the locality, we'll know. We'll go and follow the parents and know that money was given. If we start it there, within 2 weeks, we can have achieved 100%, such that when we go and tell the cabinet secretaries, now we want you to account for your money. In fact, by the time you get there, you find 90% of them will have resigned. We cannot say devolution is better, but then we want to cut this tree from the national level. Mechanisms of accountability, and there we can remove and replace without destroying. And once we do that, the foundation will be so strong that the others we can remove the bricks that we don't need there, but the foundation will still be strong enough for the new ones to find a mechanism and a system that is functioning. So that now when we go to the county level, and now we say we need accountability from the governor, we can still do it. And once we do it in the 47 counties, then we can come to Kenya and say, no, this cannot be business as usual. Ruto, we want you to govern with the mandate we gave you, but you must end ABCD. And that way, he will have seen what you've done at the local level, and he will have no choice. And even if you are to remove him that time, remember, counties will still be functioning. Remember, other institutions of government will still be functioning. Even in his absence, you can still get a semblance of a governance mechanism. You do that to the judiciary, because I do not understand why people are thinking the judiciary is less corrupt than the executive. The judiciary is extremely corrupt. Ask lawyers, they keep on asking you, why get a high-paid lawyer when the judge is cheaper? We need to bring accountability there as well. And once that is done systematically, we now can go to the other less important institutions, to schools, to churches, and demand the same accountability. But we cannot demand accountability through destruction, because now the processes of rebuilding will be so complex that we cannot ensure that they are not infiltrated by corrupt elements. That
That
wasn't criticizing, that is telling them a way they can do it very effectively and within a very short period.
and that was excellent, man. That was excellent. That is because now, right, politics is chess. You started off by saying you guys suck at chess. But now you just gave 6 to 7 steps of, how to attack, right? And that is that's super helpful. I think that's the perspective that a lot of professors should be taking. And I appreciate you for going through the friction that and the criticism that young people take. I know you had tons of years of practice of this, with me and daughters and your classrooms, right? So I'm sure that's nothing. Musili, I hope that answers your question, but that is that's deep. He's saying, I will also advise them to push for amendment of the Constitution to have us vote for parties like in South Africa and not individuals. With a Gen Z
Is South
party,
Africa any better than Kenya?
absolutely not. That's what I was going to say.
Exactly. So where will
with the
that take us?
with the Gen Z party, they will have a say in future governments. I actually think West Africa, in certain aspects, have better outlook on how to govern in the future, specifically the Sahel states. But that's a totally different topic than comparing it to South Africa. But just like,
Victor systems cannot be different from the people that make them.
very true.
If the people are crappy, they'll make systems that are crappy. If people are corrupt, their systems will only enhance that corruption. If people are divided, they will create institutions that will help them divide more.
Very true, man. Listen, that's very true, and that's something that I actually agree with, specifically because a lot of people in Gen Z, have very interesting ideologies when it comes to materialism, when it comes to popularity, IG, but then the problems that they face in life, they don't recognize them as a direct result of their values and corporations taking advantage of their values, not the other way around. Corporations are only able to take advantage of our either lack of discipline or our value of branding, or something that we haven't necessarily controlled, right? So at the same
Because
time, I,
there's
I
something
kind of
I
get
want
it.
to tell you.
Mm-hmm,
Where I come from,
mm-hmm,
and this one probably Musili might be the only one who will understand.
mm-hmm.
There is a phrase in my community that says, "Mbuino womo anilie, mbuino womo anilie." The animal you are,
Mm-hmm.
the noise you make
Mm-hmm.
is a reflection of it. You can't be a goat and make a cow noise. You cannot be an elephant and make a lion noise. You are exactly what you are. I think there's an element of this that very many people are forgetting. The so-called Gen Zs that we are praising now as doing something that has never been done. Just the other day, 8, 10 years ago, they were also doing something else that was equally stupid that no other generation has done. This is the generation that was banning schools. Just go back and see when they were in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, how many boarding schools they banned. This is just this is exactly what they are doing. They have a problem with everything, and their solution is let's destroy. If we can't benefit from it, let's destroy.
Yeah.
But that cannot. They try to ban schools, and because they didn't learn, they started now corruptly getting exams in advance so that it compensated for their not preparing. And now, because that one worked, when they came to college, they realized, oh, we were not prepared for it. And then they started all these demonstrations and trying to change how colleges operate. And now they have come out with also degrees that sometimes are not being recognized. And part of the frustration you are seeing has something to do with that as well. I'm not saying totally it is what it is, but a lot of it is that.
I see. I see. Okay. Okay. So, in closing then, what would you say your message would be to Kenyans right now, um, in the phase that we're in, where the finance bill, was rejected? It's not going to go through, um, allegedly. um, what would you say to Kenyans in this position right now?
Let's be sober. Let's be sober. Let's say probably bearing an uncomfortable position today, tomorrow, to figure out how to go about it is still a better thing than what we are seeing in the streets, the looting that is taking place in the street. Because you see, it starts by looting a politician's establishment. But when you finish with that, and like a shark, you smell more blood, you want to go to the next establishment, because to the poor, the rich are the problem. So anybody with, and if we start now destroying those that with, because we are assuming they are corrupt, and they are true, and they are correct in that, many of them are corrupt. But the moment we start with that, you will find somebody being attacked because they have a bicycle and they couldn't have bought a bicycle unless they were corrupt. That is what the French Revolution taught us. That once you start that route, it never ends.
Wow.
So being sober and just pausing, strategic pause. Let's stop it. Let's see what it is that we have already achieved. Let's see whether that isn't enough to get us to the table where we can discuss key elements. But you, I will ask you, how do you discuss with a member of parliament who gets paid 20,000 US dollars a month, even when he has not gone to parliament? And when he goes for a day, he wants to be paid sitting allowance for the hours that he has been there, yet we have already paid him 20,000. So, and that is why I say that is a critical element that must be removed from the equation. Let's remove the members of parliament from it. Number one, there are too many. We need to remove them. There cannot be a functioning Kenya with them pigs as they are. And of course, their younger brothers, the MCS. We don't need them. You ask me if there is anything we need to do to eliminate now, it is just to go to that part of the constitution that provides for them. We tear it, we remove it, and we renumber the pages.
Shout out to
And
Patricia
just
Williams. She says, the sister speaks from a place of wisdom that is well understood by other elders like me. Don't know if you meant brother. Youth must always be willing to learn from both the successes and the failures that history provides. Very true. That is very true.
exactly.
Right. And that's why that's something, shout out to Patricia Williams for stating that, because you know, uh Henry above said, stop lecturing, or that it, the thing was from a textbook perspective, but excuse, excuse me, but the textbook perspective is just a recall of an old present, just like this, right? And it's he has this phrase, a Monday morning quarterback, man. A Monday morning quarterback always thinks they know better, but we're in game right now, and we're not listening to the older quarterbacks, and that's kind of
And,
what it is right now, is that we're in game, it's fourth quarter, um and we're not listening to the older quarterbacks, but we're frustrated during the game. We're frustrated that things aren't working as we plan. um
No. You are frustrated because you are using the rules of the wrong game. You are playing football, but you want to apply. You are playing rugby, but you want to apply football rules. It doesn't operate that way. You go to the street, you going there against the police. You go to State House, you find record team that is specifically prepared to kill you when you go there.
Right.
That is exactly what they have prepared for, to protect the president and the presidency and the seat of the presidency, the State House, at the expense of their own lives.
Right.
So when you are going there, you must be prepared for the resistance. And these guys are armed not just to the teeth, but to the toe.
Yeah, man. And that's
Yeah.
something that's very true. And but you know, I to give you pushback, right? Because again, it's nuance. So on some things I'll agree with you, on other things I won't. Um, and life is nuance. So everybody remember that. But some of our heroes that we look up to, especially in the civil rights movement, we respected them for their willingness to actually put their life on the line for it, right? Um, and
Victor,
you know, and his brother,
at one
his brother, Patricia. She says, "Preach,
at
sister."
one
Mm-hmm.
at one point, Nelson Mandela was called a sellout
Mm-hmm.
because, as the lawyers say, in Janga, when things on the ground are very different. When you are isolated somewhere in Robben Island, people will see you as a savior. The moment you come and find the different interests that you have to balance to govern, that is when you start behaving like Lenin. Lenin believed that he can make an agreement with the devil and its grandmother as long as it will make him govern better. Somebody who is not prepared to do that cannot do well. And this is why you find some leaders mistaking governing to going to heaven, thinking that because they have the following of the church, then everybody else will support them because all these people go to church and they all want to go to heaven. No. There are other more important interests that you must balance. And somebody who is not there, or somebody who has never been there, will
Cannot
not understand.
understand. Cannot
I've been
understand.
in forum where these decisions are being made, and you see all these people agonizing over the choices that they are given. You see, when you're only going to the street and you are saying, give me a job, and you have failed to give me a job, you might not know how the other person is trying so hard to get that job to you.
Right. Right. I see. So that visibility will definitely help with understanding. And you know,
Mhm.
I appreciate the talk, man, and we're gonna keep on following this as it develops. West Africa is also getting real interesting. We're gonna tap in on Traore too, and check in on the Sahel
No.
states, check
Let's
in on
first
South
of all deal
Africa.
with this. The new
We are dealing with
let's
this, but
concentrate on the
this
kid,
is
on the newest kid in the block.
we are dealing with this.
Yep.
But yeah, don't worry, we are gonna keep dealing with this, but we gotta touch on what's happening in West Africa as well. People want to hear your opinion on that, not just on this. But we'll keep going on all of it, especially South Africa, since you know, there was a comparison that was made. We touched on that a little bit, but we're gonna keep, you know, talking about Kenya as it develops. It's gonna be mad interesting, and I just thank everybody for showing up. Don't know what happened with the cam, but logo's looking clean right now. So I appreciate everybody in the viewership. Like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. I thank everybody for showing up. Please continue to give Professor Smoke in the comments, right? He is very, very, very accustomed to being ganged up on, and He is
Tell him you
definitely.
are the leader of the gang.
I am not the leader of the gang. I do one-on-ones. I'm a fair person.
No,
I
I'm saying there's nobody who can be as critical as you have always been since you are like 7.
I know I'm critical, but I'm critically myself to you. Well, I got your back when the world is against you, but when it's just me and you, then it's just me and you. But like I said, there's a lot of things I actually agree with you on, but it's because of experience. Plus, I got the classroom at home, so we're just trying to bring that in here. And I thank everybody for showing up. Please listen back. Remember, get the likes up, comment, subscribe, and we will be back a little bit more often this week and the upcoming weeks with more topics, and just make sure we stay consistent. I thank everybody for coming, and this has been another episode of Diasporas. Peace out. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.